Hey YouTube, Sushi Tech here again. I wanted to do a little bit of a different video here. Since I play a lot of Labyrinth, and since it's probably been like my 10 last posts, joking, not joking, I kind of wanted to go over some cards that I think might be interesting to experiment with in Labyrinth. Some cards and packages. Um, for the current meta, it's February 2024 right now. Cards that maybe we're not playing, cards that maybe we can experiment with, the packages we can experiment with, just to see maybe where they go. I'm going to be testing some of these myself, and obviously I'll try to upload uh, my results from testing. But I mean, I'll just go straight into it. This is going to be jumbled, hopefully not super jumbled, just because this is not scripted. So I'm just gonna put the packages. We're gonna go spell or monster spells traps in that order, and then maybe jump from package to package. Hopefully this video is not super long, but we're gonna start with the monsters. So one that we're obviously playing right now is Pink Girl. Ariane, she can summon a level 4 Fiend from deck. That's a level 4 Fiend, not a level 4 Labyrinth monster, a level 4 Fiend. So something that we can do is Barrier Statue, especially if we're playing against Snake Eye or Snake Eye Fire King. Completely lock them out of special summoning unless they want to do something like Anima. But as long as we're not putting anything in the Anima zone, that doesn't really matter. They really can't do anything after their normal summon, so we've essentially locked them out. I think this is a really neat package we could do. Another neat thing we can do is End of Anubis. After we've gotten, this would be going first, maybe even second. Once we've activated all of our furniture and grave, returning it back to field, returning it back to hand. Really, this shuts down the graveyard. Non-activated effect either, it just lingers. Anything that affects the graveyard is essentially negated. It's a level 6 Fiend with a really good sizable attack, so it's going to be really hard to beat over. So like even the Snake Eye matchup has like a difficult time with this. A card we're not really seeing a lot of play right now, Lava Golem. It's a level 8 Fiend. After we summon it to the field, if it leaves and we activate a trap, just a regular normal trap card while we have the field spell up. If this is in our graveyard, we can obviously just special summon this since we've already met the special summon requirements, and then we get the level 8 Fiend on the field. We do take the burn damage, but just something to think about. I know it's a fire, so this doesn't help against the Fire Kings, but something to think about. Nib, we're playing this. Everybody knows the furniture. Activate Nib, pitch it with furniture. They're left with nothing. This is kind of like an interaction that we can talk about. So as far as crossout goes, this is like one of our crossout targets, and since more people are playing Ghost Bell, it's important to note that this hits our deck too. People are playing this for the Snake Eye, but it's also really good against Labyrinth. But something that we need to be aware of is that this negates activation. Negate that activation. When your opponent negates the normal summon or special summon of a monster or the activation of a card or effect, destroy all cards on the field and in their hand. This is just something to think about. Again, I'm said for experimentation purposes, just something to think about. Little neat tech, level 7 Fiend that special summons himself. If you just so happen to need something to bounce and you have no field, you can summon this. And if you have the big welcome, you can always just bounce this instead of whatever's on your field. If you have the Pink Girl and you've summoned Ariana, and you grab something, you're able to activate big welcome, you can always bounce this instead of bouncing one of your girls. That way you get your draw 2. People are playing these for furniture discards. I think it's a really good idea. This is also a really good furniture discard, just because she can special summon herself. If a Fiend monster on your side of the field is sent to the graveyard. So by card effect. So it doesn't work off of the furniture's cost to discard, but if any of them are destroyed, you get this level 8, and this works in tandem with having Big Welcome out on the field. I'm going to go over this package just because it has... I'm going to go over these two packages since they contain monsters. Just this Dogmatica package. Since we're pitching with furniture all the time, Nadir Servant, dump a Garuda, dump an Entis, grab this, summon this, kind of just helps get rid of stuff in the extra decks. Might be a neat package to look into. Then one I want to experiment with, since we have a Stovey that summons himself, is the Darklaw package. I know it's not a trap, but if we can hit Snake Eye in any way, since it's our absolute worst matchup, any card it's a one-sided Macrocosmos essentially, and it's hard to beat over without them not having to fill their graveyard. Obviously, target Stovey, discard the card, target Stovey, get this out. So I think that's like a neat package I kind of want to experiment with. And then these other 4 extra deck monsters, this one is the main for me. We always have the Unchained package that people are playing. If you have 2 Waking the Dragons, you can always summon the Raid Raptor and then this. This won't pop the Raid Raptor. This stops your opponent from summoning. Raid Raptor is obviously unaffected, so it can't get Kaiju'd, it can't get Sphere Moded, nothing can happen to it. And then Geonator has come up for me in the past where I summon a Stovey in attack mode, and obviously I give them a 0 attack Stovey, and then take the monster that this points to. It's just like another little interesting thing to do. And then I can go over the spells now. So obviously when I'm playing, Labyrinth setup works really good with Trap Trick. Set rotation, just another one to think about if you want to do like the Hidden Village of the spellcasters tech in. It'll give them the field spell, it'll get your field spell, it'll thin out your deck, it protects you from evenly matched, because they'll have a card on the field. Just a nice card. It hits Kashtira particularly well. It can hit Snake Eye if they don't have the main level 7 spellcaster. Just something like this one's one to think about. Shared Ride. I know people are sometimes citing this. Anytime they add a card from the graveyard or their deck to their hand, you get to draw. It's just kind of nice because you're pitching a lot. Foolish Barrel Goods I was experimenting with. It's pretty good. It kind of baits a shifter. It sometimes baits an Ash, which is good because not a lot of lab builds play this. So if a lab build is playing this and they don't know that you're playing lab, sometimes they'll want to Ash this. They'll feel tempted to Ash it. And then once you dump a transaction rollback, you're automatically setting yourself up. Something that I really like this card, especially in a Snake Eye. Everybody's talking about Soul Release, banishing 5. While this only banishes 4, while Soul Release banishes 5 and this only banishes 3, you have to discard a Fiend. While it's in the graveyard, you can banish this and add back a banished Fiend back to your hand. So going back, she banishes herself after she summons herself, so you can always add this back. If you happen to accidentally get one of your ladies banished by Runic, if you get your Lovely banished while you're playing Different Dimension Ground, this grabs her back for you. If you happen to banish something with Allure of Darkness, you essentially get to add it back. It just kind of helps in a lot of situations. And I could be wrong on this. I could be wrong. If you activate this, since it's a quick play, it counts as Graveyard Interruption. And if you activate this to target 3, and you have no Fiend, you have to have a Fiend when you activate it. But if you have furniture in your hand and you dump and you don't have a Fiend anymore, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the ruling would be you resolve as much as possible. So you would banish 3 and you wouldn't have to discard. Just another thing to think about. I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments. Humble me if I'm wrong. Necro Valley. Sometimes we don't even really need our graveyard, and it hits a lot of other decks too. Temple of the Kings. This essentially is Ku Clock on the field. You can activate a trap card the turn it was set. This always makes whatever lady sets live. Anytime lady sets something, it's live. And this isn't even just normal traps, this is just trap cards, period. So if you activate a Ku Clock and you want to set a strike, and you activate that set big welcome because you Ku Clocked, and they ash it, you can strike right there. Very first turn. And then whatever you set with lady is always active that turn. Cross out, we all know why. We can always side a package of hand traps. And then I was actually kind of thinking about this one. Ways to get rollback out of your hand, and get traps into the grave. You can always put rollback in there. You can always put Black Goat. This will bait an ash. This will always bait an ash. But if they see you're dumping a transactional rollback, they might not even want to ash this, just because you are going hand neutral. Unless they ash it, then obviously you're going hand negative, but you're always going hand negative with furniture anyway. So just something that I thought maybe I would experiment with. Those are the spells that I have, well, minus Super Poly. Somebody in my comments in my last video brought up Super Poly. This is a nice way to get transactional rollback into the grave, but it doesn't add to our engine. It just more acts as a board breaker. So I'm a little apprehensive about it because we're already pitching for the furniture. I would rather get pluses off of pitching the furniture than whatever we pitch, rather than a Super Poly grab something. But I don't think it's a terrible idea. I would say no in the hand trap version of Labyrinth, just because we're not really plussing off of our discards. But I think maybe in the build that I featured in yesterday's video, maybe not a bad idea. But I'm going to move to the traps. This is a time card. If you have field spell up, brings back your monster and you gain life points. Metaverse, same thing. Same thing as set rotation. It really just gets a field spell. But if you're playing 2 different field spells and you already have the field spell up, this will do a summon. You can always chain to it too. We all know about the viruses, the 2 viruses. Plus this virus. This virus is nice in flu. We lost a pointer, but this is like a free random appointer. It's not once per turn, banishes it face down for 4 turns. This just rips cards out of your opponent's hand, just something that you can, think about. We're all doing Anti-Spell Fragrance. We all know what that does. Waybridge is one I've been thinking about too, especially with Trap Trick. Banishing one of these. It's essentially like an evenly matched for monsters. It's diet evenly matched. It doesn't trigger any of your Labyrinth card effects in the grave to add back and summon, or the lady effects. It's forcing the player to do it. But this also does out towers, and if they decide to keep the towers monster. The next one is the Tears of the Afterroot and Tears of the Overroot package. This has both of these cards. This was probably my favorite card that released in the last 2 years. At least one of my favorite generic traps. So many different ruling things on this. That's just such an interesting card. And same thing with this one. A lot of interesting rulings that go on with this one, since it could cause cards like Mirror Jade to miss timing. Especially if you're taking a Mirror Jade from the field, putting it in the graveyard and then banishing it, the last thing it saw is it moved from banished to, or from grave to banished. So it doesn't notice that it went from field, that it left the field. So something like Mirror Jade wouldn't trigger. The nice thing about this is if you have a Coup Clock in grave, this will shuffle the Coup Clock back and grab this. This trap is also not once per turn. So if you had 3 set, you could essentially just rotate cards out like crazy. If you've already started banishing things, especially with something like DDG, Dimension Shifter, this is just a nice card to start cycling all those things back, and then using this to get whatever you cycled back to switch things. It's just neat and interesting. I think this is going to be like one of those, like, maybe not like DDD where it needs a spreadsheet, but I think it's like one of those like kind of things like where maybe you might need a ruling spreadsheet just to figure the interactions out. Fiend Comedian. This will mill things from your deck to the grave, so it'll set up your furniture, it might set up your transaction rollbacks, or if you're playing against Snake Eye, this will just banish their entire graveyard. So I only think this is a plus for you, no matter which way you go. Yeah, I just think that's interesting. We all know about Summon Limit. Already went over this card. Typhoon, another hand trap. So the neat thing about this is it hits a face-up card. You can activate it from your hand if you control no spells or traps. So let's just say in theory you open up 2 of these. You can always Typhoon something, activate Lady. And then if you have another one of these in your hand, you can activate this, another one from hand, and then chain Lady to set something. So that way you're getting plus. I think it's obviously niche, and it's a 3-card combo, but I think it's just like a nice card that has a little bit of synergy with our deck. An alternative to strike would be like Chainhole. So if your opponent activates the effect, activates an effect, monster effect in response to something that you do, you can negate their effect and then force them to banish one from their deck. Otherwise, they banish one random card from their hand. So it's a hand rip. If you just so happen to catch them activating something, maybe a 1 of or a 2 of, just completely banish it. Or they have to banish a card out of their hand. It's to make them lose resources. Starry Dragon Cycle. This is a newer one. You can obviously read it. It's basically a compulse, but then you get an additional effect based on what you've returned. Look up that card. I think this is an interesting card. And then something that I've thought about, instead of Dimensional Barrier, is Simol. Just because Simol is a D-barrier in the sense that it also hits links, but it says that they can't summon another monster of that same type. So if they have a link monster on the field already, they can't do another link monster until they get rid of that link monster. And then if you happen to have 2 or less of an extra deck monster type, they get a permanent 500 attack increase. So something I've been thinking about instead of D-barrier. If somebody starts spamming out, like especially if like a synchro or a link deck, keeps them from spamming things out. We all know this one. Just dumps a Fiend. This is an Ash target, but nobody's going to Ash that if they know you're playing Labyrinth. Labyrinth Barrage. We forget that this card exists, but this was Lady before Lady was a thing. This is like a bad version of Lady, but I think if you have Lovely on the field, this is not a bad card to use, because it has to chain to a trap. So essentially, if you can copy something like Dogmatic Punishment, you can copy Big Welcome Labyrinth, and essentially get a double welcome. I think this is just kind of a neat card that we've all forgotten exists. You saw my video. I'm using this. Won me my final. Dogmatic Punishment. It's really nice to copy this with Transaction Rollback. It's not super great right now because we don't want to be destroying things in Snake Eye and Fire King. But if we're playing something like Kashtira or even Flu, if we're just getting rid of their field, this isn't too bad. We use this, target something, send an Entis, pop something else, copy it with transaction rollback, send another Entis, pop 4 things in one turn. Can be really devastating. We are playing Ice Dragon's Prison. Obviously, we know about the Mayakashi trap. It's not super easy for us to get this out because we really can't make Beatrice, but just another furniture discard. Obviously, this is almost main deck worthy at this point, so maybe this is something that we should start thinking about. And then Strike is something that's seeing play in the OCG right now. I think it's another good card to think about. A time card, Secret Barrel, it's a trap. More furniture discards, Breakthrough Skill. It's basically Imperm in the graveyard. Boo Boo Game, if your opponent destroys it, set 2 traps from your graveyard. They could be activated that turn. And that's actually it. These are just some cards that I've thought about testing. Obviously, I go through a lot of cards. There's probably a lot that I missed. I know I'm thinking about some. But you can let me know in the comments what you think about that. I think this is just something to think about. You know, I love Labyrinth. I hate that it pops in and out of the meta the way it does. I would like it to be consistently somewhere in the meta, since it is the only super relevant trap deck right now. And I've put a lot of time and I've put a lot of thought into the deck since it released in Tactical Masters, and since I've been playing it about 95% of the time since Tactical Masters. I would just really like it to be something that we can really think about outside of the 3 Ash, 3 Nib, 3 Imperm, send transaction rollback. I want it to be something more, and I think it can be something more in this meta. But thanks, guys, for watching. If you've made it this way all the way through the video, we're at almost 23 minutes. I appreciate you guys. You guys take it easy. Have a good day, night. Stay safe. We'll check you later.